We have this one pig, and she's not necessarily my favorite pig, I have to admit, Juniper. Juniper is 4 years old now. She's a handful. But when she came in at 6 months old, she was supposed to be a hog roast at a church event.
Oh my, that's so
Yeah,
sad.
she was numbered 233. And
What does that mean?
that was her number at the factory farm.
Oh, she was on a farm and she was number 233 and she was
Yes.
going to go to a church for a pig
For
roast.
being slaughtered and being a pig roast. And the event was canceled. And there was a vegan family who was set to rescue that pig. We agreed to help out and take the pig in. And we had pigs before on site, like big farm pigs, and they were all happy-go-lucky. They
Roll in the mud kind of pigs.
Yes, one was a stray, picked up as a baby. She's one of my special needs with a severe leg injury, but happy as a bee, loves humans, right? She's my little diva tantrum piggy. The other one is a 4-H pig, show pig. He was treated well, has nothing, he just loves humans too, which then there's Juniper. She came in. I've never seen an animal having so much terror in its eyes. She was completely shut down. There was nothing in this pig. She wouldn't get up. She wouldn't walk. We had to lift her out of the trailer. She was touching the grass. She was like, don't touch me. She just kind of, pancaked on the ground. And I was like, crap.
Hey there, if you're within the sound of my voice, you are listening to the Sterling Spin podcast. I'm really excited to bring you a new spin on living your best life with solutions for your well-being. I'm Liz Sterling, and now today's program. I have in the studio Nicole Brecht. How'd I do?
Pretty good.
All right. Nicole Brecht?
Brecht?
I have in the studio Nicole Brecht, and she is the president and the founder of the Good Life Refuge in North Longmont. And their mission statement, it's to provide a safe haven for abused and for at-risk farm animals. And I was on the farm, and I am so grateful that you agreed to come in, and we can learn more about you, who you are, and what you're doing. So welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Liz. This
I
is a
had
pleasure.
to practice your name because I wanted to Americanize it and say Nicole Brecht, and you said it's Brecht. And so you hail from where?
Germany.
Give us a little backstory.
All right. I've been here for 20 years now. Just became an American citizen last week.
Oh,
Woohoo.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to America for
Thanks.
real.
And I came here for typical reasons. My husband relocated to the U.S., and I followed suit and got stuck in the U.S. I love it, and it gave me lots of possibilities that I would not have had back in Germany.
Such as?
Creating a sanctuary for farm animals.
When you think about it, you're like, this never would have happened if I was still in Germany. It only in America.
I think so, yeah.
Give us a description, if you would, of your growing up life.
Okay, I grew up in a city, small city, but nevertheless a city. I have 3 siblings. We were a big family, always animal lovers. My mom always supported me when it came to picking up animals that were injured, needed help. If they were wild or not, didn't matter.
Wow.
So yeah, that was kind of us. We were roaming around the countryside. My grandparents had some acreage where we helped out. So yeah, nature was always part of our lives,
Was it
gardening.
very green where
Yeah.
you lived? Like I'm trying to imagine what the land looked like. You said you lived in a little city, but your grandparents were in the country. Like I want to feel like I'm there for just a minute and a half.
Okay. So the city in itself, it's very tight. So there's one house after the other after the other. So there's not much green space. There are parks, but I think there are less parks than here in the US. And then you just travel outside of your city for a few miles, and then there's green, right? And that's where my grandparents had acreage. They mostly had orchards. So we were out and about helping a lot with planting, cultivating, and harvesting.
What were they growing?
Pears, apples, different berries, potatoes.
Now
They
I'm
were,
there. Now I'm there with you. Like I
yes.
can feel it. So mom supported you at a young age when you were called to care for animals that were sick or needy, whether they were wild or domesticated. There was something as a little girl. And did you have any thoughts at the time that replicate or look like what's happening in your life right now? Or was it just this love that you had and then it parlayed into finding a sanctuary for farm animals that some are at risk and some are injured? And there's a website also, so you're a nonprofit organization. It's goodliferefuge.org. It's nice and easy. So young, inspired, some seed planted. How would you describe how your life as a child parlayed into finding the refuge?
I think the animal loving part was always strong, right? When I was younger, I wanted to become a veterinarian. Didn't quite pan out at the time. I remember we were in high school and we had to watch this lovely movie, The Animal Farm from George Orwell. And I just broke down in tears and I was crying. And it was not about the part of the communism that I didn't really pick up at all. It was the part about how animals were treated, and particularly the scene when the big horse, I think, was transported to the slaughterhouse. It just broke me. And that was the moment where it's like, and when I'm growing up, I'm gonna have a sanctuary of my own in the spur of the moment. And I tucked that thought away for a long time. Life happens.
Tell me about that. I'm so curious because I think every one of our listeners know that life happens. So,
Yeah.
how did life move you along on in the path? What direction did you go, and what was that experience like for you?
So I worked in typical corporate jobs, right? I was an insurance broker. Then I added marketing, met my husband. At a time when I met my husband, I had already tried to become a veterinarian. I studied for 1 year veterinarian medicine. And then I was like, I can't do this. I'm not earning enough money. I make more money in my current position. And the whole student life didn't apply. It was just not for me. I didn't like it at all. But I had looked into alternative healing capacities for animals like holistic, found a program, met my husband. We moved to the US. And I was like, great.
Wow. So life really moved you along.
It did.
You know, I think for everyone, we could get an idea to do something. We can start on a path and then find out that it doesn't work for us. Like I was destined to be a lawyer, I thought. And I was graduating college. I was 4 months out from graduating, and I had to fill out the LSAT applications. I couldn't do it. I couldn't fill out. I couldn't do the application. And so I found a counselor in my university, and we spent a couple of sessions together. And one day I went, I do want to be a counselor, but it's a counselor of people, not of law. And I immediately got that realization. It was like the light bulb went off, and I knew what my calling was. And then I got my master's in counseling, but life unfolded, and I ended up in radio broadcasting. And I was like, well, how did that happen? Life takes us where I guess we're destined to go. Do you feel that having founded the sanctuary, would you call it now your destiny? And how hard is it to live your destiny as heading up a non-for-profit organization, which is called the Good Life Refuge in North Longmont, Colorado. And you can learn more online, thegoodliferefuge.org. And I'm speaking with Nicole, and she is the president and founder. I would imagine you had support from your family as well, but there's Destiny, and then there's Life Happens.
Definitely. It took quite a few more years to get to the point. I started in dog rescue just to be more into the animal world, was pretty engaged there, and then got exposed to farm animal rescue, which was a big eye-opener for me because while I loved all animals, I was still contributing to hurting them through some of my personal choices. And once I realized that I'm doing this, I shifted, and that only came through being in the farm animal rescue world, right?
So, like, biggest shifts that you made?
Changing my whole lifestyle to being plant-based is one of them because I just didn't want to hurt any animals through my choices. If it's cosmetics, clothing, food. And it was a tough one. It was really a tough one. It took several months, but I eventually got better at it. I've done a lot of health-conscious choices before, particularly in the arena of eating healthy. So I already had training how to do it.
And
this
making
was
the
just,
shift.
Yeah.
So, are you currently vegan?
Yes, I
You
am.
are. So it's really nothing that I'll have to tell you. I sort of like closed the door on that to protect my emotional self. I think that must be something that people do. Is like, I don't want to think about it. I'm just going to enjoy the choices that I make and what I do. But now I'm sitting here with you, and I'm thinking, am I going to really go pick up a chicken later on at Costco? I'm like, maybe not.
And, we're really conditioned, right, to compartmentalize what is a pet, who is food, right, and how
Right.
we treat these different kind of animals. And I've done it for 42 years, right? It took me quite a while to make that shift.
So it took you 42 years to get it. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to harm animals. I'm going to actually save and protect animals.
Yeah, and literally I was tending to an ill chicken at a sanctuary that I founded before the Good Life Refuge and went home and had chicken dinner. And I was sitting there looking at my plate and I was like, what the heck am I doing here? This
Right.
is not in alignment to what I'm doing, how I'm feeling about animals, right? But there was this disconnect. And it took me a while to get it. And I did watch one video of how the baby chickens are treated when they're the wrong gender.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm done.
Oh, duh.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to contribute to that. And I was lucky because I did have support from people that helped me easing into and how to do the switch.
I was just going to ask you about, and I still want to get on back to the Destiny and what it's like when you are on course and then you find out that it's not so easy. But you talked about the word, I had a lot of support, and that was in my mind. So tell us a little bit about the support that you had in creating your non-for-profit organization, in having the support of people who come to help you. You have a huge volunteer organization that you've created. And so let's do support, and then we're going to stay with Destiny.
Okay. So the journey at the beginning was supported just by people helping me switching, right? They were cooking meals for me. They gave me easy recipes and recommendation how to do the switch, which was fantastic. Later on, when I decided I'm going to start GLR, or Good Life Refuge, which was, we were looking for the right property that was fitting my family needs as well as getting started with the sanctuary.
So you're raising a family as well.
Yes, I have 2 teenage children now, but 7 years ago they were still tiny human beings and needed a mom more than they do now. So once we had secured the property in Longmont, we moved in May, and August I got just started. I just headed into it. I had support from my family, from my husband at the time. My friends supported me in setting the organization up. And then slowly over time, the community started coming in. It was not there from the get-go, but, once we started to open up to the public, having events, inviting people in, my volunteers trickled in too.
Right. I'm reminded of the law of attraction, where when you're doing something and you're vibrating about it and it's part of your life and you're living it and it's like inspiring you, you send out, some type of a message. You can't see it, but other people can feel it. And then you start attracting people to you. You become like effervescent, And so when I came onto the property, you were doing a fundraising event. And I believe it was in October. And you had a beautiful opportunity for people to come experience the farm animals up close and personal.
Yeah.
And I felt like the second I stepped onto the refuge that there was a big heart that welcomed me from all your volunteers who were so generous and so caring and informing. And so it was really nice. Come, check out the different animals. And we went to goats, and there were pigs, and there were cows. And it was just a wonderful experience that I loved. And I want everyone to know this is Nicole Brecht, and I'm speaking with her. And you are the president and founder of the Good Life Refuge in North Longmont, Colorado. And she is on a mission, and that is to get others to know about goodliferefuge.org. I'm on a mission too. And my mission is for you to get over to YouTube, which is where you're watching the Sterling Spin, and please subscribe. And once you subscribe, there'll be a little bell. If you hit the bell, every time we have a new show that drops on Sundays, you'll be notified, and then you could come visit us, learn about what we're doing, and see how it influences you as well. What is it that you're hearing that you resonate to? What is it that you're inspired to do? What are some thoughts that you may have put on the back shelf and said, no, and yet it's been calling you? So that's the goal for today, is like, how do you align with a part of you that you may not have given attention to and bring it to the fore and then become effervescent so that you can attract other people to help you? That's exactly what I feel like the Sterling Spin is. This podcast is really wonderful. And so I'm grateful that you're able to join me in the studio. You were so receptive. I called you up. I left a voicemail. I sent an email, which I'm like, oh, Liz, that's like a double hit. And I was like, it's okay. And then you called me right away, and I wanted to just thank you because, like I said, when I walked on the property, something inside me felt warmed up. And so I wanted to thank you for that. And you do fundraisers throughout the year. So if you're hearing about this, also, how do people come to the website, get newsletters, stay in the know? How do you want them to do that?
So on the website, you can sign up for the newsletter, which is the best way to stay informed. We also are pretty heavy active on social media, mostly Facebook and Instagram. And that's the best way to stay in touch. People can also just email info@goodliferefuge.org, which usually bounces up in my email box. And so I
great.
do I connect with people. It takes sometimes a little while because we're a small nonprofit. We only have 3 staff members, including me, and the rest is volunteer run. So
Wow.
we have a little bit delay sometime in reaction time.
I guess because you're out feeding the animals or caring or tending for them or to the ground and the property, and plus you go through tough winters. So take us through a day in the life of you and some of the animals, and how many are on property and how do you care for them all?
So we have about 67 animals on site right now. Our numbers fluctuate. It comes on about, are we taking new animals in? Are animals passing away? So 70 has been around our stable number for the last 2 years. We have 12 different species on site and then about 10 special needs animals right now.
What's a special needs animal?
So I consider every animal that needs more medical care than your healthy animal, a special needs animal. So we have animals that have severe arthritis. So they are on supplements, pain medication, they're scheduled for massages or laser therapy.
Oh, you really are holistic.
Yes.
Wow.
We
Okay,
are.
you'll have to help me here.
Okay.
I'm probably not the only person who's thinking. For an animal who is special needs and is arthritic and is like dealing with pain, how come you're keeping them alive?
That's actually a super valid question. And, quality of life is really super important to me. So there's this, and it's kind of not really a straightforward measurement. I wish there would be a machine actually that you can put on the animal and it just gives you like a gauge from 1 to 10 where they are in their
Right.
pain levels.
And for
right?
humans too. I
For
wish we
humans
could do
as
the
well.
same thing, but humans can communicate.
They can talk, right? And we have some species where it's actually really, really hard, like birds. They're so good in hiding when they're sick. And then others, they're a little bit easier to read. So for me, it's like we do visual wellness checks every day. When I'm out on the farm, I always check my special needs kids. Are they eating? Are they
You
participating?
called them kids.
Yes, they are my four-legged and two-legged feathered and furry kids. So, are they eating? Are they drinking? Are they getting up? Are they participating in social activities, right? With us, with their species that they are cohabitating.
Are they
Engaged,
engaging
right?
with you, responding? So you're using like a feedback system right on the spot to inform you whether or not an animal needs to continue to have that care.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine you've learned about euthanasia and you've been dealing with that because it must really pull on your heartstrings and your emotions.
Euthanasia is not my favorite thing to do. Having said that, it is a very common occurrence at the sanctuary. Unfortunately, we have animals that are aging. We have animals that, come in with heart disease, cancer, arthritis, or the aging process brings it in. And through assessment, we work a lot with medical practitioners.
Right.
So our veterinarian services costs are about 40 grand a year, just to give you a benchmark.
Oh, they're not donating their time?
Nope.
It's not fair.
Well, you're lucky these days when you can get a veterinarian on site.
Wow.
There's a huge shortage, particularly with our large animals and the bird population. So it gets harder every year.
How do your animals get to you?
We have different avenues they come in. The biggest source is usually owner surrenders. So I would say 50% of our animals come through owner surrenders. Some are like they're in zoning violations, have animals where they shouldn't have animals. And then animal control gets involved. They get a deadline. They don't know where to go with the animal comes here. Owners passing away. Owners getting critically ill. I just had a call yesterday from a woman whose sister was just diagnosed with severe stage of lung cancer, 6 donkeys, 3 goats, and some pigs, right? So
Wow. And sometimes you have to say no, I would imagine, because you have a limited number of rooms, space, stalls, housing for your animals. So this is really an emotional. I'm feeling like, oh my gosh,
it is heavy
it's
work.
heavy work.
Yeah.
It's really intense. Like every day, I guess there's a lot of life, There's a lot of death. There's a lot of sorrow. There's a lot of joy. So I guess it's really everything. It's like all the emotions of life. You and your team are living this every day.
That is absolutely true, and it's a roller coaster often. So,
I'm taking a deep breath.
Yes, me too.
I can feel it, you've been 7 years, and I'm calculating that means that we're going back to like 2018.
Yeah.
So you got your land, you started, and then we had COVID.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Oh, I bet that really put a little wrench in the works for you.
It absolutely did. We just started gaining traction with the community. Our main income source was events.
Right. That's what you do.
Yep.
You do fundraising events. That's how I heard about you.
Yep. And then we were stopped in the tracks, right? But that's the fun part about, adapting.
Right. I mean, you still had the
pivoting.
animals there, and you did adapt, and you are back now, and you're doing fundraising. It's the goodliferefuge.org. What's the closest other sanctuary for animals?
There are two. I would say Loving Arms is the closest. They're in Erie. And then the next closest one would be Rescued Friends in Fort Collins.
So you're all I'm assuming you have to be working together, because if somebody comes to you, like you got the call yesterday, critical situation, 6 donkeys and pigs and goats, you've got to ever split them up, and some take some take the other. You're working together in unison to support each other.
We try. So usually what happens when I get a call and I can't, right, which was the case yesterday. So I talked to the woman on the phone for a little while, trying to gauge what's the situation, how many animals are there, what animals are there, are they spayed, are they neutered, right? She was like, we have pigs. And I was like, are they altered? And she's like, I don't know. I think no. And I was like, you got to separate them out. Otherwise, you're going to have 20 babies on site in no time, right? Just for example. And so I was gathering information, and then I put it in my network, which is a network of other sanctuaries that are actually all over Colorado.
Anywhere. It doesn't matter. Some people take animals out of state. I'm assuming that has to happen sometimes.
Sometimes too.
Yeah.
I'm only connected with a local group or local groups, though. Transporting, while sometimes we do, I don't think it's the best way of doing it, because there's so much need in every state that you don't need to go out, right?
Right.
Now, if there's a case where you can, and that's the only option.
Off you go.
Off you go, for sure.
Take me back, if you will, because we started like a day in the life.
Yes.
Okay, a day in the life of Nicole, and I know you're looking at your little ones or your little babies or your kids that are special needs, so that's what you're starting your day doing. Let's see the rest of it.
So, usually it's like getting them situated, fed, medicated, making sure all the basic needs are met. Then we do a property check, right? Just checking.
How many acres?
It's just 5 acres, so
That's
it's not
nice.
too bad.
Yeah.
But I do take care of the medical needs. So if there's medical treatments that need to happen, we had, for example, a turkey who had a leg infection. So every day I did laser and then, wrapping it, bandaging.
I'm coming over too. I've got some.
I can help you with that.
Got
It
some
is a
arthritis
human.
in that knee.
It's a
I'll
human.
take something. Let's talk after.
Human grade laser.
It
medical
is?
laser.
Oh,
yes.
I want to know more about it.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
So, do medical treatment for the animals, schedule vet visits.
Well, very administrative.
Where it is very, and I'm trying to honestly get out of that more so I can more focus on the leadership piece to bring the organization further.
So that's like picking up on your marketing skills from when you worked in marketing.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming that applying those skill sets to what you're doing, if you just had enough time to do it, what difference would it make? Like, what's the jump that you would see for your sanctuary?
Yeah. So, right now we're kind of small, heading towards medium-based, which has something to do that I could dedicate quite for a little bit of my time towards fundraising, marketing, networking, right? If I could dedicate most of my time to that, I think I could just broaden our network. I could bring in more volunteers. I could bring in more donors. And with that, more capacity, right, to rescue more animals or to get a more solid education program. For example, my education program right now is just come and visit us, connect with the animals. We've done a little bit of cooking classes, right? We started
Plant-based.
Plant-based, yes. I truly believe that plant-based is the way to go for most people because I think from what I've read, from statistics about how it is for the environment, for your health,
Right.
and for the animals, which was my driving factor, but not everybody is in the animal world, and I do understand that, but the environment and the health
Yeah, it's a
benefits of
win-win.
plant-based
Yeah.
is a win-win, right?
You know, I remember years ago they started, I think it started in London, with Meatless Mondays. And that was it. It was just like, just make Mondays, Meatless Mondays, and see how you feel and start there. And so I know for myself, I've gone through a few incarnations of being a vegetarian and a vegan. And it's always a good choice. So I'm hoping that today will land on me as like, okay, Liz, here's an opportunity to make some new choices and different choices. The first one, somebody put a little bird, one of those Cornish hens on my plate. I was about 14. I looked and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I could see it,
Yeah.
It wasn't a part. It was like the whole
It was the
thing.
whole bird, yeah.
I was like, can't do that. So I remember, and then the second one was the same thing, like you had talked about chickens. And I was in Michigan, and it was June, and I was driving on the highway, and it started appearing like it was snowing. And I'm like, it doesn't snow in June. What's going on? And I drove up, and it turned out it was a truck taking chickens to slaughter. And I could feel what it was like for them inside that truck, which was exposed to the air. They were piled like so tight, they couldn't even breathe. And all of their feathers were flying out. And it was in that minute. And I think it was 7 years or more that I was like, okay, I'm not eating it. So I didn't eat chicken for a very long time. So we have choices. I don't think we necessarily came here today to try and convince people to be vegetarians or
Not at all.
vegans. What I really want to know is this piece about traveling this path that I'm calling your destiny. Certainly it's not a straight road. But if you could describe what it's like for us and for you, and I'm hoping somewhere in there I can feel where your joy comes in. So I'm leading the witness.
All right. My joy comes in when I get to hang with my animals, I have to say, right? It's not necessarily the work at the sanctuary because it's often a lot of heartbreak, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard decisions to be made. It's been a learning journey for sure for me. And I would say, it is absolutely. I've never left the path of being an animal lover. And I was like, this is the one red line that goes through my life like a T, right? I've been bouncing around a lot of trying different things, trying to find my way on what is it that I want to do, right? And I always come back to animals, helping animals. And it really fulfills me. And seeing my, I'm going to call them babies or kiddos, thrive is just the best reward ever. It's like we have this one pig, and she's not necessarily my favorite pig, I have to admit, Juniper. Juniper is 4 years old now. She's a handful. But when she came in at 6 months old, she was supposed to be a hog roast at a church event.
Oh my, that's so
Yeah,
sad.
she was number 233. And
What does that mean?
that was her number at the factory farm.
Oh, she was on a farm and she was number 233 and she was
Yes.
going to go to a church for a pig
For
roast.
being slaughtered and being a pig roast. And the event was canceled. And there was a vegan family who was set to rescue that pig. We agreed to help out and take the pig in. And we had pigs before on site, like big farm pigs, and they were all happy-go-lucky. No, they
Roll in the mud kind of pigs.
Yes, one was a stray, picked up as a baby. She's one of my special needs with a severe leg injury, but happy as a bee, loves humans, right? She's my little diva tantrum piggy. The other one was, or is, a 4-H pig, show pig. He was treated well, has nothing, he just loves humans too, which then there's Juniper. She came in. I've never seen an animal having so much terror in its eyes. She was completely shut down. There was nothing in this pig. She wouldn't get up. She wouldn't walk. We had to lift her out of the trailer. She was touching the grass. She was like, don't touch me. She just kind of, pancaked on the ground. And I was like, crap.
This was at 6 months?
At 6 months of age.
What was her weight at the time?
Probably about 200 pounds.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know, I can fix this pig, right? Like the emotional damage that pig had.
Right.
Couple of weeks in, she seized up on the property. Thank goodness I had the vet on the property at the time for a checkup for her while she had seizures, because she was beaten in the back with the pedals that they use, and it caused seizures, right? And I was like, I don't know, this pig, she was so filthy. The stink that came off her, I'm like, it almost made, it was like gagging.
I can see.
We washed her like 3-4 times to get it off. And I was like, this pig will never trust humans. A little bit of love, right? Knowing you're safe and secure and there's no harm coming from humans. She's the worst rascal I have. I was feeding her this weekend, I was getting the food out, and all of a sudden I have this wet snout in my forehead. I'm like, what just happened? And she was right on the fence line and just,
Wow.
Can't wait for breakfast. She will nip you in the butt if you're inside trying to feed.
Well, she has woken up.
She has. She's 100% herself, right? And these are the stories that keep you going. And you got to learn how to roll with the punches, which that was one of my biggest learning lessons, is how do you do life when there's so much coming at you at every given moment of your day.
Did you ever say you're never given more than you can handle or think it? Because that's like a saying that people will use to get by, like just to give them just a little more incentive to keep on keeping on. There's a reason. Do you believe that? Like there's a reason for why everything happens. And if you just stick with it and you muster up your strength, ultimately you'll find out. I mean, it sounds like she's having a lot of fun with you.
She does. And I 100% agree. I think everything comes to full circle. Everything I've done in my life, everything I learned, every job I worked, it comes in handy at some point.
Yeah. Right. The pieces, they fall into
places. The puzzle comes together, right?
Yeah, and it does.
And I see the sanctuary as the same. Well, the sanctuary personally is one of my biggest challenge, because there's so much, right? It kind of forced me to get the things going that I wasn't really good at, like setting boundaries, and not just boundaries with people, also boundaries with the sanctuary, right?
Right.
Being able to say no when I really don't want to say no, because it is necessary. And also, how am I taking care of myself in this environment that can be so depleting, right? What do I have to do to take care of myself? Because if I can't take care of myself, I won't be able to go through this and sustain. So then the organization would fail.
Right. It's the proverbial, you have to put the mask on yourself first so you can get your oxygen so that you have the energy to give it to whether it's your child or your spouse, whoever's with you. That airplane analogy, I think, is the one that really helps us when it comes to self-care. It's like, oh, it's okay. It's not even okay. Like, I have to make caring for this self a priority. Otherwise, nothing else that I'm doing could happen. So you've learned your lessons, and you now are on your destiny. You're right where you're meant to be.
Yeah, 100%. I was
That's
like,
great.
this is what I do. I wouldn't even know what else to do.
Well, I
quite
want to
frankly.
say, since I met you, I was on the property in October. You keep a steady pace of connection with people who sign up for your newsletter, which I really like. I get pictures, I see things that are happening, I feel connected. And you do some great fundraising events. And anybody who's within hearing this program can learn more at the goodliferefuge.org. Nicole, thank you so much for being a guest today. I really appreciate the work that you're doing and everything that you shared. And I think we all benefit from having something that we can feel, whether it's feel good or feel bad. It's just to feel. So thank you so much for today, for that big heart that you have and the work that you're doing. It's great.
Thank you so much for having me today. This was a pleasure. I always love talking about Good Life Refuge and sharing what we're doing.
Yes. So thank you. And you've been listening to the Sterling Spin podcast. I'm Liz Sterling. Please hit the subscribe button. We are going to be producing shows every single week that come out on Sundays. So hit the notification bell, and that will bring you in your email. It will notify you that there's another program that you can watch. And I've certainly enjoyed having you be with us today. Stay tuned for more.